Hey guys, my name's Sarah and I have been on the nutritional balancing program for just about 2 months, maybe a little bit longer, and not the full program, just components of the program. So here is where the coffee enemas, the sauna, the GB3 comes in. I think I started doing saunas even before I knew about this program because I wanted to get away from the salt baths. The salt baths are draining. So the saunas, I have another video on my YouTube channel about the closet sauna. Since then we've built a sauna, and that's actually the sauna sitting right back there to use, because this is a lot less draining than the salt baths and it's a lot more beneficial. It's a lot more grounding. It really grounds you, levels you out, increases parasympathetic kind of like to take over rather than the sympathetic. So the salt baths are extremely draining on your adrenals. They're very yin, as Dr. Wilson would say. And from my understanding, the sauna is extremely more yang, which yang would not stress the adrenals as much. You still don't want to overdo it. You still, when you start out with the sauna, you want to start out, I even started out 5 to 10 minutes, because all these things are extremely powerful on the nutritional balancing program. So anyways, I started doing all this stuff. I started the sauna, was the very first thing, and I noticed it relaxed me. Sometimes it agitated me, and I have a feeling that was maybe copper detox. But sometimes it also relaxed me, which was a great effect. So sometimes I would go in the closet and just basically fall asleep for take a 10-minute nap, and that was great. So basically, sauna was the first thing I did, and then I was looking up coffee enemas, and I basically ran into this guy, Joe, and I think I commented on his Instapot or something like that because he was making coffee in the Instapot. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So he was kind of like, hey, have you heard of the program? I was like, what program? Like, no, I've never heard of a program. I thought he was talking about like Gerson program because I was looking up coffee enemas, and all I saw was like Gerson related things, which is like a cancer kind of treatment center. So I just thought he meant Gerson. I was like, no, I'm not doing that program. It has to do with green juices. Like, I don't do well with juices. It's an extremely intense program for cancer, which might be beneficial for that, but I don't know if it fit my situation. So anyways, he's like, no, like, sent me an email, like, about testimonials and stuff, and I was still like, okay. And then, so he was like, okay, let's talk. So I was like, okay, I'll talk to you about it. So we talked over the phone, and he kind of told me about the program and like what it entails, and he talked about the diet, and the diet was extremely similar to my diet already. And I'm like, wow, like there's actually a group of people that eat like me. Like, I don't know anybody who basically eats the way I do, because it's all organic. It's basically cooked vegetables and meat and some nuts, and that's basically, and I was doing fish too. So I'm like, oh, okay. And that's the first time he told me about sardines. So I had no idea about sardines either. I was eating like salmon and cod and stuff like that. And that actually, bigger fish have more toxins inside of them versus the smaller fish. So sardines are actually a very safe fish to eat if you don't have the histamine intolerance. Canned sardines are a lot better when it comes to heavy metals and toxins and stuff like that because they're smaller. So anyways, the first thing I did was switch to sardines instead of salmon, because I knew I already had excess mercury in my blood, and the fish could be contributing to that. So I was kind of grossed out, but then after a while I was like, oh, these are kind of good. And then I automatically had energy. So I don't know if sardines have iodine in them. They might, but I'm not sure. But something in there, selenium maybe, I don't know, don't quote me. So that was great. So he told me about the sardines, he told me about the diet, which I was already doing mostly the diet. He told me about something called slow oxidation, and he's like, I can almost guarantee you're a slow oxidizer. And I was like really interested in that, because I'm like, slow oxidation, I mean, and like with the thyroid issues and adrenal, and like he was talking about all that kind of stuff and basically all my issues that I have. So I'm like, okay, like let me check out this program a little bit. So I talked to him, and I was still kind of like, oh, I don't know, because basically I'm on like 30 different supplements, and I'm taking all these herbals that are basically holding me together so I can go to the grocery store maybe for like an hour a day so I can do this and that. If I wasn't on the herbals, I was scared all those mental symptoms were going to come back and I was going to crash like I did at home and blah, blah, blah. So I was extremely skeptical of this program at first because of the fact that I would have to go off all my herbs, and you know, it's extremely overwhelming. There's a ton of things to the program. There's the coffee enemas, there's the sauna, there's, you know, if you haven't been doing the diet, there's the diet, there's the hair mineral analysis test with all the different supplements. You know, there's a ton. There's a ton of articles, you know, chemicals you should avoid, push down exercise. So yeah, the program is extremely overwhelming. There's a lot of components to it. It's pretty intense. And kind of how I started is just simply just one thing at a time. And like literally, I'll tell you guys like a little story of I did, this happened like, it was like a month and a half ago. I did my first coffee enema. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I have a lot of energy and I really felt good from the coffee enema. And it helped a little bit with my gut. So I was like, okay, like I'll do this again. So I did it again the next day. And well, I had an appointment that day. So I'm headed off to my appointment. And oh, I also was like in a rush. So I grabbed some vegetables and some, you know, probably like sardines or something before I left, maybe some eggs. And, went on my merry way, and I didn't have any salt or anything like that. Well, I got in the car, got on the road, I felt like I was gonna pass out, like, and I literally almost passed out. I was on the express lane, I was like heading to my appointment, like I started feeling dizzy, my heart was racing, I had major anxiety, I was almost having like a panic attack, so I had to pull off. I didn't pull off on the freeway, I made it off the freeway somehow, and I was able to pull in a parking lot, but I was feeling too weak to even get out of the car and get some salt somewhere because I was craving salt. So I knew I needed salt. So I ended up laying down in my car with my legs up, waiting for my boyfriend to come. He got me some salt, and my parents came and drove me back. And so I was like, wow, like maybe this program isn't for me. This is really intense, like just messing with me, like I'm not gonna be able to do stuff. So that's the first time I talked to one of the practitioners on the program about what I just experienced. And basically the practitioner told me that, yeah, like I probably overdid it on the coffee enemas. It could be electrolyte imbalance because the practitioner I have actually has dealt with like electrolyte imbalance from coffee enemas as well. So she was able to tell me, yeah, like be careful with the coffee enemas. And from what I kind of learned with the coffee enemas is, yeah, it was like, one, it was too much for my body. Two, I wasn't drinking any kind of like mineral spring water that I started recently drinking. I was drinking the Berkey, which doesn't have any minerals. Three, I was like sweating like 7 pounds a day, taking 2-hour plus long salt baths. So all my minerals were depleted as I'm doing these enemas. And all that combination basically led to me almost passing out. On top of, I was doing too much water and not enough coffee. So I guess like a little tidbit for the coffee enemas would be start out extremely slow. I would do 1 cup of coffee, like I did half a teaspoon of coffee in 1 cup of water, and that seemed to be okay. Before I was doing even more water and less coffee, and I know Dr. Wilson says to not hold water enemas too long. I know coffee has minerals in it that actually help with certain things. And the other tidbit is to always have carrot juice on hand. So I make carrot juice daily now, and I'm about to start making my own wheatgrass to juice. And that's going to help rebalance because the carrot juice has a lot of like calcium, magnesium in it. That was my very first experience with something other than the saunas on the program, but like I said, the practitioner that I was talking to was really able to help me out. And that's kind of like when I got into the program a little bit more, is when I'm like, okay, well, this practitioner looks like she can really work with me and really understands where I'm coming from. I did actually talk to another practitioner before I talked to this practitioner, and I felt like she might have been a little bit too much for me, pushing things a little bit too much. So I was I was not comfortable with her. I was more comfortable with this other practitioner that I was talking to. I guess that's another thing too, like on this program, like if, like, search around for a good practitioner. Like, there's a ton of practitioners listed on Dr. Wilson's site. You gotta find somebody who works for you and you work well with. So if you don't like the program, like, initially, like, if something's not working, not everybody's for you. So just search around for somebody who you mesh well with, practitioner-wise, and I think that would help. I kind of decided to do the program since I was already doing a lot of the components of the program. So I did the hair test. Paid for the hair test, and let me remind you, cost-wise, this is about 1/16 cost. Maybe this is maybe like a month worth of supplements for me. And on top of the hair test, you get to talk to a practitioner my practitioner is amazing and available whenever that I need to talk to her, ask her questions. She is very responsive and stuff like that. So that was extremely beneficial, and that was a whole bonus, and for me, it's not that expensive. For other people, it might be expensive. But for what I was already paying for all my herbs and all my supplements, getting this hair test wasn't really a big deal, other than I was still not sure if the program was for me because I was feeling overwhelmed with everything and looking up all the protocols. And, you know, there's like I was saying, there's a lot of stuff to the program. I got the hair test back, and it was essentially it described me down to a T. Slow oxidation. My thyroid, I've been on thyroid meds for about 2 years now. This hair mineral analysis, basically my worst score was in my thyroid and adrenals, and then it actually showed that a lot of indicators that I had copper toxicity, which I was already thinking I had because of the agitation and the anger and the insomnia and the wired feeling and the pre-migraine, which they call visual snow. Those are a lot of indicators of copper toxicity, and those are my main symptoms. It's like, you know, my nervous system is so stimulated. And for a very long time, I also had an extremely high sex drive, and that could also be related to copper toxicity. So this is maybe nothing new to my body. It's just Lyme kind of tipped my body over when there was already all of these heavy metal and mineral imbalances to begin with, and that makes your body extremely weak and not able to fight off bacteria and fight off viruses. And this program is basically to strengthen your body, and that convinced me a little bit more that the program is probably for me because if it came back and said I was like a fast oxidizer and that I was in the sympathetic stage of everything, like, that's not me. I know I'm not. Like, I can get wired, but for the most part, I'm in the exhaustion phase. Like, I'm exhausted, like my body's burned out, like my adrenals are burned out. You know, things like the bath that's very yin has a strong effect on me. It's very draining because my adrenals are already drained. You know, heavy exercise, sex, I can't tolerate it. I'm in the pure, basically, exhaustion stage. So anyways, all of this makes a lot of sense. I went over the results with my practitioner, and we kind of came up with a plan. She gave a list of herbal supplements, and but she said, since I was having a bad gut problem, she said start with the GB3. And that is where things basically completely changed, is when I started the GB3. My stomach went from being rock hard and having absolutely no gut movement and being so tired after I eat that I had to lay down and take a nap, to I could eat and leave the house and go out and do groceries. And, you know, I was able to leave the house for 4 hours yesterday and stuff like that. The first 2 days, I'm not gonna lie, were pretty rough on the GB3. I didn't know what was going on. I got a bad rash over my stomach. I thought I was maybe allergic to some of the ingredients, because usually I can't tolerate anything in any kind of supplement that's chemical related. So I was thinking I was reacting to the supplement, and I was like, this isn't good, I'm breaking out in a rash. But my practitioner was just like, no, you know, hang in there, let's see how you do tomorrow. Well, the next day was better, and that's when my gut actually started moving, and the rock hardness went away. And the other thing that helped was the bladder urgency, where I had to go to the bathroom like 50 times a day and couldn't leave the house, went away. I mean, I don't have those issues anymore. Sometimes I have bladder urges, but it's not like immediate, like I need a bathroom like now. The GB3 really helped, and I think the first couple of days were severe hurricane with like parasites, you know, the candida, everything that's going on in my gut. It was mobilizing everything in my gut. I think it was trying to detox and eliminate. And the other thing that happened was I went from taking 2-hour long salt baths per day because I was in so much pain, and I just, after I ate, I felt so crappy that I needed to just like sweat it all out. And since the baths are so draining, I still had to do it because I felt so horrible after I ate any food that I literally had to take a bath. But now I can leave the house and have a whole day without taking a bath. I had to take a bath in the middle of the day just to get through the day. And now I've actually worked my way down to 20 minutes of a bath in the evening. Sometimes I do it for longer. If I do it for longer, sometimes I don't feel good. A couple times, I think Dr. Wilson recommends maybe like 1 or 2 baths a week at the most. And right now I'm still doing 1 daily, but it's a huge improvement from what I was doing before. That's a blessing, so I have a lot more time in my day. I've been able to concentrate more. I've been more social. I've been wanting to interact with more people that I'm like usually not interacting with friend-wise, just because I have the energy to now. Like, I'm not so concentrated. Before I was just so consumed with IBS. I mean, it was just so debilitating, and you know, all the bloat and whatever was going on down there. Like, it was so debilitating. I couldn't think of doing anything else. I couldn't think of working. I couldn't think of socializing. So things have changed. I've been sleeping deeper. Last night was the first night I had actual insomnia for basically like a week. I was sleeping okay on the GB3. Things were moving through my stomach at night. I'm still actually taking low-dose naltrexone, and that helps move things through my gut. It's prescribed by my Lyme doctor. I'm using that in combo with the GB3. Kind of like I said, like, for me, the program, it's a very gradual thing. Like, I know when you first start the program, it can seem very overwhelming, but if you just take one thing at a time, that really, really helps. And even if you're, like, if you're transitioning, like if you're seeing like another doctor and he has you on all these supplements and stuff like that, you can slowly back down on things as you are adding some things in for the program. So like I said, I'm only taking the GB3 right now and just concentrating on all the detox. I keep tweaking my diet as well, so just pick one thing to concentrate on, whether that's diet or the sauna or coffee enemas. Just one thing at a time. Take it slow. And I'm at the point where I'm doing a coffee enema every other day, and that pretty much works pretty well for me, but I'm not dependent on them. Like, the GB3 works, helps move things through. I'm able to eat 3 meals a day again, which I haven't been able to do in years. So I think my digestion's a little bit better. That's kind of my experience in the program. Also, with the GB3, which is really interesting, another side note is the second day I took it, I got these long scratch marks over my back. And the last time I had those scratch marks was when I was on the 7 months of antibiotics. I was getting long scratch marks across my back. I had a couple here and there with the herbs, but that's interesting because those are marks under the skin. It's mobilization of bacteria from the gut. So that's how I know things are working. It's like kicking it up from the gut and getting into the immune system, so the immune system can kind of deal with it. I think the bacteria is basically, where do I go now? Like, go to the brain, go to the back, like try to like escape. But that's what I mean. It's not an easy process. There's still, you know, now there's still days where I'm feeling fatigued, and like last night I didn't sleep well, so I'm pretty tired today. But on average, I am doing so much better.